writer, podcaster, artist, or indie creator of any kind, you'll know what a struggle it can be to find creative services at an affordable price. And that's where Gig comes in. The global indie group has everything you need under one roof. You can connect with publishers, writers, editors, artists, videographers, musicians, composers, voiceover artists, podcasters, and more.
Hi, I'm Lori Calcaterra, and I'm on Gig.
Hi, this is Ben from Comic Book Squares, and we're on Gig.
This is George Medina, and I'm on Gig.
Hi, I'm Morgan, and I'm on Gig.
I'm Lauren.
And I'm Matt, and we're Hops Geek News,
a geek-centric, beer-loving pop culture podcast.
And we're on Gig.
Cheers.
Hi, I'm Letzi, and I'm on Gig.
Hi, I'm Witty, and I'm on Gig.
We're on Gig.
Head to globalindiegroup.com now and check it out.
Welcome to another episode of Indie Comics Relay. I'm your host, Keith Gleason, creator of the Mighty Mascots and promoter for the Plastic City Comic-Con. With me is always Johnny C., creator of Sartana, Surrounded by Death, and The Pond for Roger. Baraka. And our third co-host, Harry G., graphic artist extraordinaire.
Hey, everybody.
What's going on, fellas?
What's up?
Not much.
I know. Hang out last Friday outside of the show. It was nice.
Oh yeah. We should talk about that for a little bit. That was pretty nice.
Was it Saturday or Friday? I forget. No, Saturday.
Saturday. Yeah. We all went to Lucky Pro Wrestling, which is a wrestling event that's local to me and Harry here in Leominster, and very good indie wrestling, I would say. Had a great time. I don't know.
Yeah, it was a fun show.
It was fun. Yeah, I like the I think my favorite was Abs, and probably the politician too.
The politician's great. You can tell he's a fan favorite too, because the crowd went nuts when he came out. You know.
Yeah. It reminded me though, because like whenever you meet professional wrestlers from the 80s at conventions or whatever, like you don't. I mean, as a kid, you're like, you hated them or you're afraid of them or something, but then when you meet them in real life, like just like regular people, you know what I mean? And it's like, so, and then when I looked over, I forget the guy with the ponytail that was wrestling. That was like, he had like
the guy that looked like Jason Momoa a little bit.
No, he was like in a tag team or something. And like Pony, somebody thought he looked like somebody else. I don't know.
Oh, okay. I don't remember. Amy probably would know, but
he kind of sat to the left of us, and I kind of looked over at him, while there was another match going on, and he was just kind of like looking around the crowd and like enjoying it, and I'm like, he was like showing his like human side. He was a heel, you know what I mean? So
okay,
he's like, that's how they really are. That's how they,
So the term is he broke kayfabe. So he completely shattered the mystique for you.
Yeah, you
don't hanging out and watching it, like as a casual fan.
Well, because I think I've shared the story before. I met Piper one time. He came to a local convention.
Oh, that's cool.
And the guy in front of me, for whatever reason, he drew this very highly detailed pencil drawing of Yoda, or maybe it could have been charcoal drawing of Yoda, and he gave it to Piper. He's like, "This is for you. I drew it for you." I was like, "Oh my god!" Like, and then he's like, I can't. He's like in awe of how amazing this thing was. And then like I'm next in line, of course. He's like, did you see this? Like this guy just gave it to me. He drew this. I'm like, oh yeah, it's pretty. It's pretty awesome. I'm actually in the I actually draw myself. I'm in the business myself. It's pretty cool. It's great. He's like, and then he's like, I couldn't draw to save my life. I couldn't even draw a stick figure. I'm like, he's like, I'm no artist at all. I'm like, what are you talking about? You're like the greatest villain ever in wrestling. Like you're like you're one of the greatest artists ever. It's like, thank you, man. You really appreciated it. Like, and of course, 3 months later, he is no longer with us. He like died. So it sucks.
Oh wow! So you saw him right before? Huh?
Right before, yeah. I had no idea.
Wow. I know. Like I've heard stories about how awesome he was.
Oh yeah,
fans and everything.
Like very.
But yeah, he was one of the greatest. And it's funny. After that event, I started going. I was watching. Johnny, you put on the Plex like the WWE Rivals or something, and I started watching like some of those. Like it's just the classic stuff, like Hulk Hogan against Piper. And stuff like that. Yeah. And I was like, it sent me down on this rabbit hole. I was watching a ton of Piper's Pits, especially the one with Jimmy Snuka when he smashed him with the coconut. And I was just like, God, I miss this stuff,
Yeah, the part 2 to that. Yeah.
Classic
They met in the ring. They met in the ring and like Piper gave Snuka the coconut. I was like, here, man, I'm sorry I did that to you like back in the day. Like, take it, hit me with the head. Hit me in the head, and he wouldn't do it. Of course, meanwhile, he was a murderer.
So good.
Thank you, Dark Side of the Ring.
Yeah, you can't beat that era, man. I love that era of wrestling because it was like still like growing, and it was just. I feel like they were trying hard, and then when they got together with MTV and they blew it up to another level, that stuff was great,
Hey,
so
thank you, Cyndi Lauper.
Yeah.
And Captain Lou. While we're on the subject, I have an early factoid for you. So I think that there's like a match between Hogan and Mr. T versus Piper and like was it Cowboy Bob Orton? I think it was back in the day. It was like a tag team, and I think Piper and T were boxing or something. But did you know that Mr. T back in the day had cancer? I think it was like mid-90s. He got diagnosed with cancer. Do you know what kind he had?
No.
T-cell cancer.
Did he really?
Yeah. It was like ironic. It's like
this is where we need a Harry bumper. Like Harry's wonderful facts.
Right. Well, I don't know how wonderful it is, but T-cell cancer. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, what are the chances? That's crazy.
I know. I mean,
that's
obviously,
kismet. That's the cosmos circling back around to remind Mr. T that he's Mr. T.
Right.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
I love the cartoon too, Mr. T's.
And he was he was on top of the world at that point,
What was that?
He was on top of the world at that point.
Oh, yeah, right.
The cartoon, the A-Team, all that stuff was going on still,
Yep.
Good stuff. But like it was fun. It was fun hanging with you fellas. We got a nice picture for the promo stuff.
Oh, yeah, right.
It was a good couple-hour event, So
it's always
dangerous. He was real kind to let me hold his belt.
Yeah, that kid behind us was a really nice guy.
Yeah, real nice kid.
He got into the face of all the wrestlers. I love that.
Oh yeah. Well, what's funny? He kept on calling them what their like professional, like TV popular counterpart was. Yeah. So if there was a guy that kind of resembled another more famous guy, he would just call them that.
Exactly.
It's such a juvenile thing to do, but such an endearing thing to do.
Yeah,
you could see the fandom in him, and I could appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess, but before we get going more into wrestling, we should probably kind of draw back and
talk comics.
Talk comics. But I always said, and I think you fellas agree with me, comics and wrestling go together like peanut butter and chocolate. It's just one of those things. Like they're sort of the same thing if you break it down to just the basics.
Mm-hmm.
It's a story of good versus evil, and they fight it out. It's like,
and things can flip, and things can, things can.
And there's twists and turns in the stories. Yeah,
the storytelling is phenomenal. Wrestling is mediocre most of the time, but when it's good, it's great.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
What was your
same
biggest,
with comics, right? Same with comics, Johnny. So
it's
what was your biggest heartbreak? Like turncoat.
Turncoat.
You know, like when you think they're your friend, and all of a sudden they turn on you. You know.
Oh,
like,
the heel.
Yeah. When one turns into a heel.
Yeah, when one of your favorite characters turns heel.
Yeah,
it's when a wrestler betrays the fans or betrays a partner or whatever that in turn, when they go into business for themselves, they turn heel.
Yeah. You can see it coming too, because like little tells, throughout the match.
That's good storytelling,
Right.
So another quick tangent, and then we should drop it.
Yeah.
AEW had a really good storyline recently where they had a feud between two wrestlers, Swerve Strickland and Hangman Adam Page. Hangman Adam Page has always been a babyface in terms of continuity of the storyline, right? He had this great, really bloody, brutal match with Swerve Strickland, who's always been a villain or a heel. And in the course of this match, where they had a three-way build up to fighting the champion, Samoa Joe, it's almost like they were able to swap roles, where Swerve suddenly became a babyface because Hangman was so determined that win, lose, or draw, he didn't care if he lost. He just didn't want Swerve to win the title. So he was resorting to heel tactics just to make sure that Swerve wouldn't win. So it was like basically Captain America doing dirty to make sure that Thanos doesn't snap or something. You know what I mean? That's how deep and intricate story they could take the good guy and make them bad for the sake of good, and that's just good storytelling. Yeah,
I like it. I don't know much about AEW, but hearing that is really cool. So. Yeah. I kind of want to get to the show, so I'm not going to.
Let's get to the show. Yeah, we're on tangents.
I'd probably say, if I had to say it real quick, probably like Randy Savage. Didn't he turn evil against?
Hogan.
Yeah, that one was surprising. If you could say it real quick without going into explanation, Harry.
Oh, I would say Hogan and Mr. Wonderful, probably. Paul Orndorff.
That's a good one.
Back in the day, they were tag team partners.
Yeah, that was a good one, actually.
Yep.
Awesome. So without further ado, let's bring in tonight's guest. So I should say up the top, one of the guests that was supposed to be on the show with us, Jarell Tomlinson, I think is how you say the name, had to drop out at last minute. Some personal stuff going on with him. He apologizes that he can't be here. But we still have Ari Rubin with us and Sarah McCall Efron. And, of course, our buddy Mike Spring from Terrificon and Saratoga. So without further ado, let's bring these three people in and let's have a comic discussion. So first, I'm going to bring in our pal Mike Spring. Mike, what's going on?
Mike, what's up, man?
How's it going?
Hi,
good to see you, man.
Good to see you.
Good to see you all. I think my favorite heel turn was Wilson the volleyball in Castaway. Like Tom Hanks brings him to life. He bursts him, and then Wilson just floats away and just leaves him. Like
betrays him.
Yeah,
first chance he gets.
That was heartbreaking for me. Cutting her hair. That was definitely like betraying all of America.
Yeah,
that is a great one that people do remember, I think. And then let's bring in our second and third guests here, Ari Rubin and Sarah McCall Efron. What's going on, Sarah and Ari?
Hey, hi.
Hi, how are you?
Hey guys, how you doing?
Good. Did you guys have any favorite heel turns in wrestling?
I gotta say that when I was little, we did not have cable because my father was fully convinced that he would spend too much time watching baseball and wouldn't get any work done. So I always was stuck when my friends played wrestling. I was always stuck being Rob Cherry because he was the one who was left over. But I do have a 10-year-old daughter. And in Frozen, Prince Hans affects the heel turn about 2/3 of the way through the movie. Classic heel turn. Same exact storytelling device.
Yeah. No, same. Do you guys agree with my sentiment that how comics and wrestling kind of go together? Like they're just sort of the same thing if you break them down to just the basics. Like, would you say that?
Yeah. I mean, I think the overlap between comics and wrestling has always been huge. I mean, I have a couple friends who do wrestling comics, and like the amount of wrestling fans at the comic conventions is always, you know, whenever there's wrestlers at the cons, their lines are huge. I mean, there's clearly a very big overlap in the fandom. And I think it's like you said, there's just, you know, at the base of it, it's colorful costumes, good guys fighting bad guys, you know, fighting it out. I mean, it's just that one is live action and in a ring, and the other one is, you know, on the page. But I think there's a lot of overlap between them.
Yeah, absolutely. Sarah, are you a wrestling fan at all? Or?
I'm not really, but I do appreciate the costumes.
Nice. I feel like the 80s was the pinnacle, but you know, some people don't agree with me, but I don't know. I thought that was the most colorful era where there was like the craziest wrestlers at that time, you know?
Yeah, I definitely remember Cyndi Lauper getting in there and doing a lot of promotion. That was my experience.
Getting hit by Rowdy Piper too. Remember that? Good stuff. Before we get into the show, like I just want to, you know, bring up the chat here and talk. We've got a few people in the chat tonight, which is great. We got Amy's Birdhouse with us. Good evening. My wife is always in there keeping the chat going. She said Lucky Pro Wrestling has some awesome heels. I agree.
They do.
DS Cartoons is with us tonight. Hello, DS. Thanks for joining us as always. JD Rosario is with us.
Hey, JD,
everyone.
How's it going, man? We need to get JD on the show.
Yeah, definitely. He's coming on soon, right?
I think we have an email out to him. Yeah, right back to the email, JD. Unless it's finalized, I forget. I don't know if we finalized.
I don't remember, but yeah, follow up with us. I know we've sent an email or something, right? And we were trying to nail it down.
Absolutely.
He said comics and wrestling fall under the Venn diagram. They are just live action superheroes. Absolutely. I agree.
Like that.
So those are the only comments we have so far. So seems like it'd be a wrestling themed evening so far.
We'll try to keep it comic centric for the sake of everybody.
Let's try to switch the gears towards comics, you know. Sarah's with us for the first time. Sarah, are you a comic fan at all, or are you just sort of like a traditional artist? Or
no, I grew up reading comics, so that was part of my introduction to drawing figures, and I mean, my mom is an artist, but that was what I read when I was a kid. And nice. So before it became, you know, the popular thing, it was like, you know, the nerds were reading comics, and I guess I was one of those.
Yeah, it's true, because I remember it was kind of taboo. Well, not it was, you kind of didn't let people know that you read comics when I was in high school and stuff. And even though I think secretly a lot of people liked comics and stuff, but you didn't really talk about it, it was like, you know, Star Trek or something, you know, like we were out, like no one ever wanted to say that you watched it, or, you know, or we're into Star Wars or whatever. But now it's totally different. Now it's like it's
totally mainstream. Yeah,
it is. Crazy. It's crazy. And I knew it flipped when I was hanging out with my friends one day, and like we saw like kids walking around wearing like X-Men shirts, and I'm like, oh my god, if I wore that in high school, they would have kicked my ass, you know.
How do you feel though, like when that started happening, when like it became more mainstream, like all these like things? Did you feel like you no longer, it's no longer your thing, you know? It's like now it's like everyone's like, now they're all into it, you know what I mean? Like
exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was like a secret club.
Now you're sharing it with everyone. Now you're not really that special anymore, you know? It's like
it's weird. Like, go ahead.
John. So I was kind of friends with every group of kind of like clique in high school. So, you know, I was friends with the jocks because I was on the football team, but I was also friends with the gearheads because I'd go down to the garage and change my oil. So like I would kind of have an audience with everybody, but the one common denominator was they always asked me about comic stuff. So they'd be like, you know, can Magneto really do this? And then I'd sit there and have like a half-hour conversation about the capability of Magneto with somebody who's just like intrigued by comics, but too afraid to pick one up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I've seen a lot of that too. And what I was going to say, Harry, about your question is that it's funny, like, when it wasn't cool, I think like a lot of comic fans were trying to make it mainstream. Mm-hmm. You know, like they were like, look at this Watchmen book, or look at Preacher, the stuff that kind of has like crossover potential. Yeah. But then once it became mainstream, it's like, oh, comics sold out. You know? So it was like this, like, tug of war going on.
That's kind of how I felt with like Doctor Who, actually, because like I used to, like speaking of not having cable back in the day, we only had like 5 channels when we were growing up, and like PBS Channel 2 was like our thing, and Doctor Who was being shown on there, and like I would watch it, and I couldn't believe like none of my friends were knew what I was talking about. I'm like, did you guys see that show last night or yesterday? Or, like, what are you talking about? And for years, like no one's ever heard of it, no one's ever watched it or cared about it, and finally, like when I was in middle school, we're doing potato carvings. We like stamps. We made a particular potato, cut it in half, and we carved like a thing into it to make a stamp out of it. And I did the TARDIS, and my art teacher was like, Harry, is that the TARDIS? Like, you know what that is? I couldn't believe like she knew what it was. And then like I went to like a comic book store one day, and like I heard like this little kid, like maybe like 5 years old, telling his, asking his mom, like, hey mom, who's your favorite Doctor? I'm like, not everyone and their grandmother loves Doctor Who, I'm like, I don't feel like it's like my thing anymore, like.
Yeah.
But,
Harry, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I'll say that stuff. It's been happening. Like it happened with comics, happened with Doctor Who, and the same thing. When I first started teaching, there was like, you knew who the Doctor Who people, and they were really excited when you pulled out like your Sonic pen and like checked your homework with that or whatever. You knew there were like there's like one kid in the whole class who did that. Happened with fantasy literature when that whole boom happened with when Harry Potter happened, and they ask you what should I read next, and it was like, and I tell them, oh, you should read George R. R. Martin, this Game of Thrones. Nah, it's too long. It's 900-page book. I'm not gonna. And then, 5-10 years later, and it's the most popular thing on the planet. But you're still the one they go to, right? They ask you like every single Marvel movie that comes out. Wait, so this guy, what's his story? And and this is like what Johnny was saying. Like they always go to you, and they ask you, like you become the expert on comics, on fantasy. Oh yeah, I finished. I read. Now I'm really into fantasy. What should I read next? What's good? This same, all this stuff, the Doctor Who stuff, also all of these little things. But I feel like, more people read comics than admitted they read comics.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like I find like all sorts of things. Like my martial arts teacher, the Sifu head of his school, like he's a big comics guy, and like he's the exact same age as me. And it's like, I don't know that if when we were in high school we would have known that each other was into comics. The way it is now, because he knows, he finds out students, he knows that I write comics. He's always asking me about stuff and when I'm writing, when it's coming out. But like, back when we were in high school in the 90s, like I'm not sure we would have known that about each other.
Yeah, it just never used to come up, which is a funny thing, like it was just kind of hush hush. It was like if you were in the know, you were in the know, even though a bunch of my friends would always go to the comic store and stuff, but we didn't talk about it when we were in with everybody else in the school. So how about you, Mike? Did you have that same experience?
I mean, yeah, I was going to say, if you didn't love Doctor Who and they had a $12 an episode budget, don't come to me now that they have a $75 an episode budget.
Right.
Like,
you need a certain modicum of imagination to help you along. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, I've been reading comics since I was, like really a young kid, and it was, the same, like you guys all said. Like I remember getting this Superman t-shirt like my first day of like 8th or 9th grade, and I was all excited to wear it, and then I quickly realized it wasn't cool, and I think I would never wear it again. And like and now I would, of course, but the thing that kills me the most, honestly, is like I remember having to go to a Star Trek convention to get a Star Trek t-shirt. And like now you can get them at Walmart for $7.50. You know what I mean? I literally had to like the effect, like special order, except in person. And now it's like you go to like any store on the planet and they have all their graphic tees, and it's like, here's a Jim Lee X-Men shirt, and here's like some Spider-Man from the 70s artwork, and here's all this stuff. And you're like, what? When I was a kid, I would have killed to have that kind of access to to that.
Johnny.
I was just going to say, you can tell the difference between an authentic vintage comic book shirt that was like sold in a comic book store versus one that you get at Walmart. And the main difference is that the one you bought at the bookstore was probably a wraparound design.
Yeah.
It went all the way around the shirt.
Oh, you brought it. See, that's a traumatic memory for me. So I'll just share the story real quick. But when the Batman came out in 1989, You know, I was riding high with my Batman T-shirts because I already had a bunch of them. But I got this. I was at the store like the night before the movie came out, and they had this giant Batman wraparound, like one of those like really gaudy. Like now I would look at it and be like, I would never wear it in a million years. But it was like this giant Batman face. It was like yellow and purple, and it was printed on the back, and it was so loud. But I was like so excited to get this shirt, and I wore it to school like the day the movie came out, and the kid who sat right next to me in my homeroom class was wearing the exact same shirt. And it was like the stupidest looking thing you've ever seen. And then everyone's like, did you guys do that on purpose? And I'm like, no, why would we do that? It's ridiculous. But I was so like crestfallen that I was going to be like the cool kid with the cool Batman shirt. And this other kid with my thunder. That hurt.
He ended up being like the person that like when the husband and a wife wears the same outfit or something.
Right. Yeah. We weren't even good friends. It was just the kid I sat next to. Yeah. You know.
That's great. Yeah. Ari, you were gonna say something?
Yeah, I was gonna say that I got this shirt. This is Gotham City shirt in a comic book store many years ago, and now it has as many holes in it as one of Luke Cage's sweatshirts.
There you go.
And and I remember there was a big comic book store in New York City for years called Jim Hanley's Universe.
Oh yeah.
And they had a Manhattan location, and they still have a Staten Island location, but the Manhattan location closed this year, unfortunately. And I went in the last day, and I saw the owner. I was like, I wore the thing because I bought it there. I bought this. I remember I bought this, and I bought a Spider-Man sweatshirt on the same day, the same day there. I used to have to walk by it on my way back from work. And he recognized, like, that's the one we used to sell. He's like, you couldn't get that for 30 years. Like, wow. Yeah.
I thought you were going to say, I was the kid next to you wearing that Batman t-shirt.
No, I was not.
Can you imagine?
Right? Small world.
That would have been great. Awesome. JD Rosario says, coming up in April. So I guess that's when we got him booked, Johnny.
Oh, nice. All right. Yep.
And he also said lots of wrestling comics in the past, such as Undertaker, Stone Cold, and Nash. Plus, Raven always wore Sandman Vertigo t-shirts to the ring, as well as Rey Mysterio Jr. wearing comic-inspired ring attire. Yeah, I forgot about that. That's a great point. Yeah.
And that's regular nowadays too. Is that you'll see that a wrestler like theme their gear to look like either a comic book character or a video game character. Like
pretty cool.
Which is pretty cool. Like they pay direct nod.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Amy says, I think manga is the latest entertainment format to really go mainstream. Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's outselling regular comics now too. Manga is,
And that McDonald's commercial, have you guys seen that?
No.
Started airing in the last week or two. It's a completely animated, anime style McDonald's commercial, and it's just like these anime characters like dipping chicken nuggets and like running around real fast, but it's the whole thing is animated in anime style.
Oh, no kidding. Is it like Ronald McDonald as like anime or
no? It's like very traditional anime looking characters, like the big hair and like Naruto and all that stuff. Like I mean, forgive me for all I know. I'm not into it personally, but it's definitely and like their bags now have like the manga characters on it and stuff. They're tapping into it. So if McDonald's is doing it, it's pretty mainstream.
Yeah, that's true. Wow, I'll have to look that up. I had not seen that. Not that I don't watch a lot of live TV though, so like it's always streaming stuff for me. Yeah. So
no
I'm not
commercials.
surprised I haven't seen it. Yeah, exactly. No commercials.
Yeah.
We're all about the no commercials.
Yeah. So I'm dying to learn about both of you guys' projects here too. So like we'll definitely want to talk about that now. Anyone want to volunteer to go first to tell us a little bit about the projects they're working on?
Sure.
All right, Mike, go for it.
I'm never shy. All right. So my current book that is on Kickstarter as we speak is called The 8-Bit Slasher. And it is a mashup of classic video games and slasher films and comedy. Basically what it is about is a popular movie slasher who's a like downloadable content character in a video game. He gets magically transported out of the video game and into the real world. And goes on a killing spree, but he also brings elements of the video games into the real world with him. So there's a lot of video game inspired things, boss battles and video game tropes and a lot of gags and things that only happen in video games kind of seeping into the real world. So that is my current book that's funding right now, and it's I'm really excited about it. We're having a lot of fun with it.
That sounds great, Mike. Like I love because is it 80s inspired too? Like
definitely inspired by like the old like a lot of arcade games like your Mortal Kombat and Double Dragon and Virtua Fighter and like the X-Men and Ninja Turtles big cabinet arcade games.
Yeah.
A lot of that stuff. So that's kind of the thing that's my sort of favorite video games, and then I've just been a big slasher films fan, forever. So I thought, hey, here's a way to tie them together,
Yeah, great idea, John.
There is also just a long history of like just 8-bit slasher games like Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th.
Yep.
Even on the Atari, they had Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like these rudimentary, very pixelated games representing these horror icons.
Yeah, that was definitely a part of it. In fact, we have one of the homage covers we did is an homage to the Friday the 13th Nintendo game.
That's what I've been on.
So,
hardest game ever. Like that game was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And all they gave you was rocks. Like you have just like rocks to throw at Jason.
Yep.
And like I never knew it. Every time you encountered him, you were dead. Like it just was the hardest game. I don't know anyone that's ever beat it.
Well, he's superhuman, and you can't kill him. Yeah. How do you? Even if you had a gun, you can't kill him. How do you?
I know.
It's like.
It's true, and it carried over to the video game. When he turned, it was purple too. If I remember, that was like a weird thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, good stuff though. Like I love that era of games and movies, and it was the best decade.
Right.
If you ask me.
Yeah. So I tried to fit in a lot of the classic video game tropes and slasher film tropes all into this one book, which is a complete story. It's a 48-page graphic novel, so it's a whole story, complete start to finish. So I tried to fit as much of that stuff in as I could, so it's and then my artist, I write it, but my artist makes it look even better than I can put on the page. So very happy with how it's turned out.
Yeah, well, I'll definitely bring up the Kickstarter shortly here so we could take a look at it. But I did look at some of the art when I was like creating the links and everything, and I was like, wow, this does look good. I've read some of your stuff in the past, so I have no doubt that this is going to be great. I read the Red, White, and Broke, and then I also read your last one, Uncaped. That one was really good too. And I didn't think I would like that one because it was kind of like a romance comic, but it did. I thought it was great. Thanks. Really good job on that. Did you get a chance to read that, Johnny?
I didn't, but that Uncaped is what you came on for last time, if I remember correctly. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it was good. I liked it, and I like your format of doing one story in like a 48-page thing, and it's like you just got to get the one. You don't have to worry about a whole mini series. It's like that. Is that kind of your format going forward?
It is. My first book, Red, White, and Broke, was a 4-issue mini series, and by the time I was done with that, I was just like mentally exhausted. Like executive function is not my thing. So like the idea of like having to put out another issue and like start the whole thing over and do covers and like keep people interested until the next issue came out, I just wanted it done by the end of it. Like I don't have the patience for that kind of thing. And and then I knew like from a sales point of view, like the trade paperback, like the very first convention I had trades at, I outsold like every other convention I'd ever been to with the single issues. Even when I had like the set of 4, like people like having that book that they can hold the complete thing. And I knew I wouldn't be able to do like a 100-page graphic novel every time because that's just expensive as heck. So I've kind of decided moving forward, my format is these kind of 48-page, the prestige format, the square bounds, like the ones you get from DC and Marvel. It feels nice and thick, feels like a real, graphic novel, but it's not, 100 pages long. And I can tell a complete story, but then it also leaves me open if I want to come back and do a sequel. Like I have a sequel plan for Uncaped. I can come back and do that, but it'll be its own separate story, kind of like a movie sequel. Like, there's a lot of movies that helps you if you've seen the previous ones. Obviously you want to see the first ones, but if it's a good enough movie, you can watch it on its own and kind of understand what's going on. So I kind of want to be that way so that people aren't forced to go like, which one do I read, or what do I have to buy this and then buy that, and then I have to wait for the next issue to come out. Like nobody ever has to see me at a convention and be like, well, I'll buy this and I'll come back next year and I guess I'll read the second half of it then. So that's kind of my approach moving forward, and I really like it. It works well for me as a creator. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's genius. Johnny,
I was just gonna say I really like that approach in the sense that I remember back in the 90s when I first started collecting comics. you would get individualized issues, and you have like these short stories that were usually, beginning, middle, and end told within a single issue, 22 pages.
Yeah.
But then you'd have instances of graphic novels where there were just longer, more extended stories. And like you said, they almost played more like a movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I love that you took that approach, and it kind of like harkens back to that era and reminds me of that. I really appreciate that.
Thanks. Yeah, I think when you think back to like the 80s, especially, but the 90s too, like there was all those, like think about all your Elseworlds from DC and stuff like those. They were just those square bound books. They were nice. They were like twice as big as regular comic, but it wasn't like a $20 graphic novel. It was like, $4.99, $5.99, $3.99 back in the day, but you got a whole story, and, but it still felt like it was something special because it wasn't just a stapled floppy comic, and I always loved those. And so that's kind of, been my approach. And like I said, I do a lot of conventions every year, and that's where it's so much easier for me to try to sell somebody a complete book and say, "Here, you can read this, and you don't have to read anything else." Versus when I did a couple of conventions when I only had half of Red, White, and Broke out, and I'd be like, "I got issues 1 and 2." People are like, "Yeah, call me back when you got 3 and 4."
That's so heartbreaking when they walk away from the table because it's just like because they already have 1 and 2 or whatever the case may be.
Yep.
It's true, Mike. And I noticed too, like with me, because I haven't had a lot of graphic novels at my table in years.
Yeah.
And I finally just did one for the first 3 issues of Mighty Mascots.
Yep.
And I noticed that I was selling those a lot more than the singles. But also to your other point about having like a couple issues, like I noticed when I had like 1, 2, and 3 of Mighty Mascots, I was running into the same kind of situation you were.
Yep.
But now I have 9 issues. And now people, I think, are seeing the other side of it. Like, oh, this guy's got a lot of issues. Now I can buy the whole set,
Sure.
So I'm like, if you can get over that hump, I think is when the multiple issue thing would help you, but
absolutely. Yeah.
But it's like, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I have some good friends I do cons with, and they kind of have that approach where they do multiple issues, and that, that works well for them. But like, I just honestly, even just like, I would try to keep the stock, the same. I'd have 50 copies of each book, and then I'd end up with like 40 of one and 20 of another and 18 and 30 of another. And then I'd like, okay, I'm going to order, 12 of this and 20 of this and 30 of this to try and get it evened out. And somehow I'd messed that up. And I was just like, I can't do it anymore. It's not the way I operate.
The other thought is that if you think back in the 90s as well, a trade paperback was more uncommon. They didn't collect these, bounded editions. So when you came across something that was collected, it was kind of very special.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. One thing I was going to say before we learn about Ari and Sarah's project here, favorite slasher movie, Mike?
Well, I mean, my all-time favorite is Halloween, the original Halloween by John Carpenter.
Choice.
That's what got me into slasher films, and I still think the original Halloween is the best horror movie of all time, in my opinion. So and then the Halloween franchise I'm obsessed with. It's my favorite franchise by far. But second favorite would be the original Scream. Just because of the way it was a great slasher film and then deconstructed the entire genre at the same time. Like that's nothing. I'm not saying anything new here. Everyone knows that. That's why it's great. But I love it, and I rewatch it all the time. So
great choices. Halloween is definitely one of my top 3 as well.
Yeah.
Johnny. I put Black Christmas up there, and
Black Christmas, definitely.
And I love
First Nightmare on Elm Street is one of my favorites.
That's a great one too, and I love My Bloody Valentine. There's so many good ones, so many really good ones, and and I love Scream too for like all the reasons you said as well. So great choices. Harry, you have a choice?
I don't really like horror movies.
Get out of here.
Because they make me angry, like they always run in the house instead of like running out of the house. Like, they can help, get out, don't hide under a bed. And if you do, right, they always like cry out loud, like audibly, so they can be heard. Like, shut the hell up. They're in the house. They're going to kill you,
That's it. That I always have. I mean, like if they did the right thing, the movie wouldn't exist, right? So I mean, that's how I look at it.
What's that movie with Liv Tyler?
The Strangers.
The Strangers.
Oh my God! So that wasn't. I mean, I wouldn't call that a horror movie. That's more of like a psychological thriller. I don't know, but that was the scariest thing ever because
slasher, I'd say. I mean, I don't know.
I think there was like a sliver of like based on a true story or something like that. At the end of the movie, they said, like the killer was never caught, or these people were never caught. I'm like, holy like anything that's believable, like scares the hell out of me. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I guess the only real thing about that story was the fact that someone knocked on the writer's door at 3 in the morning, and that was it. Like that. Then they built the whole movie around that. So, but to your point, one movie I would recommend that's sort of in the vein of Scream. Have any of you guys seen Leslie Vernon or The Rise of Leslie Vernon Unmasked? Isn't that a great movie?
Oh my god, it's brilliant. I love it.
I love that movie. It kind of takes the premise of Scream but goes another level with it, like actually doing like the Office kind of thing where you get a peek behind it's great. It's great
so
stuff.
good. It's so good. Yeah. The Behind the Mask, The Rise of
Behind the Mask. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah. If
you guys haven't seen it, I highly recommend it.
Yeah. I know they were trying to make a sequel, but I don't know whatever happened to
Actually,
it.
I interviewed the director about the sequel before it got made, because it hasn't been made yet, and it was just a funding thing, and I guess it's never gotten off the ground.
It's a shame.
Yeah, I know, it's right before it.
Such a great movie. But anyways, I digress. Anyone, Ari, Sarah, do you guys like slasher movies?
I'm more into gothic horror.
I'm
a really, really big fan of gothic horror, Edgar Allan Poe.
Gotcha.
That kind of thing.
Ari, weren't you just at Poe's house?
I was just at Poe's house in the Bronx. I was down at Poe's house in Baltimore last October for the awards and the PoeCon down there. I really like gothic horror. That Poe, the House of Usher on Netflix was excellent. If you haven't seen it, you should. It was a really, really, really good show. That's the kind of horror that I'm into.
Harry,
a lot of 19th century, books too. I find gothic books to be there's just something about like in Dracula, the monster is never on stage, so to speak. Like Dracula's 600 pages long. You have maybe 50 to 60 pages where you actually see Count Dracula. Otherwise, you kind of hear about him. You read newspaper reports about what he did the next morning, and you try to piece it together.
You see his abacus in the background, like him counting. Like, no. But
what were you gonna say, Harry?
No, I was reading your bio, Ara, and I saw all the Edgar Allan Poe awards you got and everything. So it reminded me, because I'm from Westford, Mass, and there's like a whole Edgar Allan Poe connection to Westford. I guess he dated a girl back then. He dated like 3 girls around the same time. And he spent an extended visit in Westford during this time, and there's like a whole big commemorative rock, with his name and picture on it, and they had a whole big thing recently. So I don't know if you ever heard of the Westford connection to Edgar Allan, but
I've not. I know there's a Providence connection, and he was all up and down the coast. There's museums with houses in New York and Baltimore, and
we got around then. With ladies,
you moved up and down. Where are the publishing centers, right? And that was actually a lot of it was they were moving around. His wife, who was also his cousin, who was much younger than him, had she was very sick, and they were trying to find a place for her. He also moved where the jobs were for publishing. He got his first poem published in Boston, which was a big publishing center back then. He was born in Baltimore. He moved down to Richmond to run a literary magazine there. He moved back up to New York. Then he moved from New York to the Bronx, which was basically like moving upstate back then, because it was all, farmland, because they were looking for better air. And then, so he moved around a lot.
Yeah.
He ended up dying back in Baltimore under mysterious circumstances.
Interesting. Yeah. Sarah, are you a horror fan at all?
I like psychological horror. I like more than blood and guts. I'm not really a blood and guts person. like The Shining, is like an amazing, of course, classic movie. Although I do like American Horror Story, like the first versions, or the first ones
earlier
that they did.
Seasons.
Yeah, the earlier seasons. So I just close my eyes when it gets too bloody. That's how I deal with it.
Johnny, you had your hand up. Are you going to say something?
No. I was just going to say, I'm thinking more psychological, like Silence of the Lambs,
that's
Hannibal, that kind of thing.
Suspenseful mystery, just sort of like underlying subtext. That's all interesting to me. So
that's good stuff. Go ahead, Mike.
Just for the record, I'm actually not a huge fan of Blood and Guts. I know that seems counterintuitive. Films. Part of why I love the original Halloween is because it's not gory, and then it seemed then they went down the road of making them gorier and gorier, which I don't understand because the original one wasn't, and it was a huge hit. So why do you need to change that formula? So with my book, it's got the requisite amount. There's a little bit, but it's all very tame. Like there's no like entrails spilling out or like it's like a PG-13 slasher movie.
Okay, that's fine.
It's just the way I like it. Sometimes when I watch some of these movies and it just gets so like overdone, it's like, all right, I don't need to see all of that. You know what I mean?
I do. I find all of it. I love it.
I could give or take it, but I agree with you, Mike. I think a lot of the ones we mentioned don't have a drop of blood. The original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Yep. I don't think there's not much in Black Christmas either, or the original Halloween. I mean, I love the way they treat Michael Myers like the boogeyman, and that stuff's great. Like,
Whatever happened to Dr. Loomis? Was it? I lost track. So what happened?
I can tell you the entire history of Dr. Loomis.
Yeah. Well, I just want to know about how he.
Buckle up, everybody.
Did he retire or what happened?
Well, there was this thing called the.
Depends on which cut of Halloween 6 you're watching. The producer.
Are you talking about theatrical literal cut?
So I'm just saying that might be a question for another episode.
It's a long history. It's a long storied history, Harry.
Yeah. Does he? All right, I'll
He does not survive the franchise.
Okay. That's what I was getting at. I don't want to spoil it. Right.
There was some good comments here. Amy said, "Harry, you're killing me." The Strangers is a horror film.
It is pretty scary.
She also said House of Usher was awesome gothic horror, which I agree with. And our pal Tony James is in the chat. Hey, Tony, what's up? Friday the 13th, Chapter 4 is a great horror movie. Atmospheric, minimal blood. Yeah, that's a good one. I like that one. Of course, it was not the final chapter.
That's pretty tame, right? But very scary.
Poltergeist is great.
Poltergeist is really good.
Traumatized by that movie as a child.
Yeah, absolutely.
I watched it when I was young, and I still to this day, because of that movie, I cannot do anything involving maggots. Like I can't even look at them.
Why would you?
Yeah, right.
I hadn't watched it since I was 8 years old, and then I watched it again last year for the first time, and I was blown away by how good of a movie it is.
Oh, it's absolutely a classic.
It is amazing. I was blown away.
I love that the parents are rolling joints at the beginning.
That's what Johnny remembers.
I like Fright Night. That's pretty good.
Same thing.
Fright Night, great movie.
Yeah, I love that movie. The original, not the remake.
Yeah. Welcome to Fright Night. The way he says it. For real. Great stuff.
Like
Johnny, you were there, right? The year they were all at Saratoga. I wanted to go so bad.
Yes. There was a semi-reunion in Saratoga. It was pretty awesome.
The scariest thing as a kid growing up was when the Karate Kid guy got killed by the stake to the heart, or a stake. I forget the guy's name. He was in Karate Kid.
Who are you talking about?
The guy in Fright Night that got impaled by the
Ralph Macchio?
No. It was some other
Karate Kid.
He was one of the Cobra Kai kids, and he got impaled by in Fright Night. Remember that?
You talking about?
I know who you're talking about.
Okay, because I forget his name. Like
he talking about Stephen Jeffrey?
One of the Cobra Kai group.
Yeah.
He was Stephen Jeffrey. Okay,
was it Stephen Jeffries?
When he's when he was turned into the wolf, and then Peter Vincent stabbed him with the.
I think he fell or something, or he got impaled by this thing, and he as a kid.
Yeah, he fell down the stairs. He got impaled by the the
whatever it was.
railing or whatever. Yeah.
Yep.
It's good stuff.
But we digress.
This show's all over the place tonight. All right. So let's I want to learn about Ari and Sarah's project here as well, the Awful Alphabet. Either one of you guys want to let me know what this one's about?
Sure. We'll start. So the Awful Alphabet it's a picture book for adults, alphabet picture book for adults. It started actually during the pandemic when I was at home and I was taking care of my son, and we didn't send him to preschool for a while, even after he was allowed to go back because it was kind of iffy, and I was able to take childcare leave anyway. And I would do these alphabet construction paper projects with him, like A is for apple, B is for butterfly, whatever, right? And it was great, and I love it. I love being a father, and I love being home with my son. All that stuff. They call me the baby whisperer for things because I take care of all the kids. But everyone has a bad day, right? So one day I posted something like, I want to do E is for entropy. This is a random post. I did a post. I want to do E is for entropy today. And Sarah commented, oh, you should do a book like that. You should do a book, a whole awful alphabet. And I was like, I don't know how serious she was. I was just thing at the time. But I said, you know what? I'll write the book, but you have to be the one to illustrate it. And we sort of had the idea then, and it sort of developed into that. So if you think of like an Edward Gorey style alphabet, like the Gashly Tinies, but more colorful because that it's we did it in Sarah's art style rather than Edward Gorey's art style. Or if you think Neil Gaiman did one called the Dangerous Alphabet. But if you also think of like, there's a series of picture book for adults that have come out recently, like All of My Friends Are Dead or Go the F to Sleep, these types of things.
Yeah.
Picture books aimed at adults. It's kind of somewhere in between that. So it's an alphabet we say, adulting is hard, nourish your inner emo child.
Johnny.
I was just gonna say I got a preview of the book at New York Comic Con when we got to hang out together, Ari, at the bar, and that was the first thing that came to mind as I was flipping through. I was like, oh, this is exactly like Go to Fuck to Sleep. Yeah. But made for the kind of comic indie audience and adults and people with cheeky humor. I loved it.
Yeah, very cool. Like, and did Sarah and Ari, did you guys know each other prior to this?
Sarah was my daughter's preschool teacher back when we lived in the city.
Oh, no kidding. Oh, that's awesome.
I knew that she was also an illustrator. We had gotten some of her projects in the past. So, yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's awesome. I didn't know if you had kind of just gone out to find an artist. And
no.
The art's great, Sarah. I've taken a look at some of the pictures, on the backer kit and everything. And it really looks nice. Really great artwork. Perfect for a storybook.
Thanks.
You tempted the writer and you got a job out of the deal.
I know, right? I do that every time. Gotta get some more writers.
Yeah, that's great. And then Ari and Sarah, I wanted to ask you guys too. I think you're the first guest that we've had on the show that have used like backer kit. Like now, I always thought backer kit was part of Kickstarter. But it seems to be its own separate thing, right?
That's what I thought too. So when I was setting it up and I was doing this, my first time doing crowdfunding, and I was doing research, and I was asking people about different things, and I had seen BackerKit, and I asked them, they're like, oh yeah, you have to use BackerKit. It's the best thing for fulfillment. And if you set it up right away, you could integrate it into your Kickstarter and all of that. And then I noticed they had a builder on their site. And at first I thought I was building for a Kickstarter. And then I was wondering why the things weren't showing up on the Kickstarter page, like they weren't showing up. I was like, and eventually I figured out it's actually two different platforms. They actually it's not just integrating your BackerKit fulfillment into your Kickstarter, like what a lot of people do. BackerKit actually made its own crowdfunding platform. And having started in both of them, the BackerKit builder was, on the creator side, was so user-friendly. It was so much more intuitive. And the customer service is great because it's still rather new. Anything that I wrote to them, a real person would write back within 24 hours. Usually the same real person and she happened to be one of our first backers also when we went live.
Oh, no kidding. That's
she was a real person, which is nice also. And, it really helped. One day she was out of the office. I got an email back. Oh, Satsville's out of the office today, but maybe I can help you with your problem. Like they were on top of it. And plus you get all of the BackerKit integrations for fulfillment and all that stuff is already built into their platform. So, you don't have
what do you mean by that? Like,
like their fulfillment services. Like oftentimes when you support a Kickstarter, it gets fulfilled. People add BackerKit to fulfill the orders. And there's been 3 or 4 projects that I've backed recently that the survey ends up coming from BackerKit, and they do.
So they take it over after the campaign's over.
They'll send you labels. They'll figure out your shipping costs. They'll do all of that.
Oh wow!
Kind of thing.
Do they take a lot higher percentage of your?
No, not. I mean, I think it's like. I think they're standard. Like if you add it into your Kickstarter, it's scaled based on how much you make. So it's like between 5% and it goes down to like 2%. Depending on how much you're bringing in. But it's already built into their similar. It would be a similar fee to what you were paying anyone else, but actually probably less money since it's all in the same platform. They'll send you updates. Like if you if they think you should be sending an update and you haven't sent one, they'll say, hey, it might be time to send an update. These types of things.
Oh wow.
The other thing is
they hold your hand through the process.
Yeah, they do. And they actually don't let you launch until they feel you're ready to. Like their review process is actually a real review process. Like I had to make a few adjustments before they would let me, let the campaign go live. They said, please, do this or do that. And then sit back and forth because sometimes they'll suggest something and you'll say, no, I really, because of this, want to do it, the other way. And, sometimes they'll say yes or they'll say no, but they were flexible with it. And, so I think it's really good for people who aren't tech savvy. I think I'm a writer. I'm not, I find that I have someone helping. Mike Ponce, who did the lettering and all the hand lettering for our book, also did all our graphics for the campaign. He's been helping me. He's done Kickstarter, this kind of things for Kickstarter before, but he's been a big help with that. But as someone who's a writer and who's not that tech savvy to begin with, and as someone who I've been part of, anthology projects that have been on Kickstarter, but that's my first Kickstarter that I'm running on my own, thing that I'm running on my own. I found it a lot easier to use. And I think that the customer support, the fact that they're there is helpful. And also the audience is bigger than you think because if you've ever backed a Kickstarter campaign that's been fulfilled through BackerKit, you're already in there. Like you still get, and you could import I imported my newsletter audience into there. You can import your previous audiences from wherever into there. But, I've been very happy with the platform so far. I would use it again. And, just to me, it just starting from it just seemed easier to use.
Awesome.
I was going to say, you've already smashed your goal almost or doubled it, just a little over doubled it. And you've got like 36 something days to go, right? Yeah. So I was concerned at first. I'm like, well, it's kind of you're a new, different, isolated crowdfunding platform. Right. So like, Kickstarter's got its built-in audience, Indiegogo's got its built-in audience. Does BackerKit have its built-in audience? But it sounded like you're able to kind of port your... You can import your own audiences. And like I said, probably it's smaller than Kickstarter. Like it is. You don't get that. You don't get Projects We Love or whatever and get the boost from that. Like you don't get that. But what you do get, like I said, is like if you've ever supported a project that's been fulfilled through BackerKit, they're in there. They don't have to re-sign up again. And they do their best. Like they will, if you tag them in your social posts about it, they'll push it also, and they'll do that kind of thing. I mean, I knew this would be a niche book to begin with, and
we think it's really cool, and we think there's obviously there's an audience for it, but it is. We also, recognize that this is a niche book, a alphabet book for adults, dark kind of thing. So for our purposes, I think it really worked. But I noticed, Brandon Sanderson's worked with them, and he's got a huge audience. LeVar Burton's worked with them; he's got a huge audience. So there's been people who've run major campaigns through there. I think it's stronger in the gaming field right now than in the publishing field, because of the way that they started. But they're looking to build, their other thing, and also, you get in on the ground floor while they're still helping people out and stuff. Because I've heard from people that back in the day, Kickstarter used to be like that. They used to be a lot more helpful than they are, and they've just gotten so big that you don't get that anymore. So. Yes, it is. You have to tell people, yes, it's on BackerKit. It's not on Kickstarter, right? It's a different thing, different crowdfunding platform. But, most people are just clicking on a link anyway. And I think because, yes, I have comics credits and I got, comics things, and comics people are used to Kickstarter. But I have people who aren't comics people either. And most of them are just clicking on a link, They're not really... looking for the brand. They're clicking on whatever link because it's your book or because Sarah's, on it. And, they just say, oh yeah, they're sending out, I want to support that. They just click. They don't, notice necessarily where they're going.
Now, Sarah, you're Ari mentioned you're a teacher, correct?
Yeah.
So did you have any sense of like moral, kind of wavering, considering how provocative the book is? Would you be like, oh, what if a parent reads it and is like, I don't know if I agree? Did you have anything like that may have crossed your mind?
I mean, it did cross my mind, but then I immediately dismissed it.
Nice.
But it's not the first time you've done a provocative project.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I mean, I've done some of my own children's books, but I've also done a lot of other strange, little weird things. And it's like you gotta do what you do, and you hope that parents read what it is before they buy it. And I mean, it's pretty obvious that it's not necessarily. I mean, for a mature kid, yeah, sure, they could definitely read it. But it's definitely dark. So you gotta
I like
know
that
your
you
kid.
Follow your creative vision.
Yeah. I mean, you got to, right? That's the whole point.
Yeah, absolutely. Harry, did you have something to say earlier?
No, I was going to say that I watched your video on the book there, and I liked some of the examples that you gave with the each letter or whatever. But it reminded me the place that Keith and I used to work at after you had left, Keith. They were threatening the artists to go on the phones and make phone calls to customers and things, and we're all dreading it. I'm like, oh my god! So, and I luckily I got unceremoniously let go before that happened. But because of COVID, not because I got fired or anything, but before, when I was anticipating the idea of going on the phones, I made up a phonetic list. Because I always heard the other sales reps or other people on the phone saying, "Oh yes, A as in apple, B as in boy." I'm like, oh, how boring is that? It's the same standard phonetic list, So I came up with I had things like A as an aisle, like a phonetic list that would confuse people, like E as in I, P as in philosophy, S as in C, G as in net. Things that would confuse people.
That's so funny.
I never got to use it though.
But maybe you will.
Maybe you can make my
save
own.
that.
Yeah, you can make your own.
Johnny's writing some of these down for his job.
X as in Xerox.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I have a soft spot for absurdist humor. That one was good. That was real good, Harry.
And the other thing, the other thought that I had was going back to the horror movies. I mean, I know we moved on, but I love that Geico commercial with the kids running towards the shed with the.
Yeah. That's
right,
great.
Chainsaws.
Right, chainsaws. Yeah, How funny! How great! I live that commercial every year. They keep.
I love it.
That's a great one. But yeah, no, let's. I want to take a look at both of your campaigns.
I was just saying, let's pull up the campaign pages and check them out.
So I was gonna start with Mike's campaign here. So let me pull that up here.
Mike, any particular reason you chose Kickstarter as a platform, by the way?
I mean, a couple things. In just one is familiarity and comfort. So I've done all my Kickstarting. This is my 7th campaign. I've done them all in Kickstarter, so I know it really well, and I know the audience. I know the platform. And, you know, I think it is still the biggest platform. And so to me, it's all about trying to just get that traffic, you know what I mean? Because I'm not a big name person. I don't, you know, I have my fans who will follow me, but I don't have that's not enough people to fully fund it, you know? So I need to get the biggest audience I can. So that's why I did Kickstarter, but I keep hearing about these other platforms, and, you know, maybe at some point I'll try them out. I just, right now it was like, well, I know it well, let me just stick with what I know.
Yep.
Yeah, like some people, like Tony James, who was in the chat, he'll fund his book on Kickstarter, but then he'll do like a second chance campaign on like an Indiegogo to try to kind of, but do it at a lower goal to try to like get an audience over there as well. And I mean, that's a lot of work, honestly. Like, I don't know if I would do that, but some people, you know, it's an option.
I've thought about doing that. I think I might have been on the show with Tony once before, actually, maybe, but maybe not. I don't know.
Maybe.
I think
maybe, possibly.
Or Noir. I think that rings a bell.
Yeah, because I remember talking with him about on the show about that, how he did it as like that, and I thought about doing it as a second, like for one of my books that's already published, to go on Indiegogo and just try and throw it up with like a low goal and see if I can just use it as like a storefront almost and sell some books that way. So it's just one of those things where there's only so many hours in the day, so I'd like
that's what I was going to say. Yeah.
If I had 2 more arms and, needed less sleep, and I don't sleep much as it is, then I could, I'd probably be better at that.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I love the image. Is this the normal artist you use for all your projects?
Well, that particular image right there is Ryan Gary Brown. He's done covers for everything from like G.I. Joe, Transformers, Usagi Yojimbo, He-Man, like Thundercats. Like, he's a big cover artist. Cover is right there is from him. But the next image after that one, that's Ryan's. And then the other one, that's my homage cover. That's not the series artist. That's Jeff Bonesteel. You might have met him, Johnny, at the Saratoga Con. He tables with Russell.
Yeah.
Scary bald dude, but that's the regular artist's cover. One of those.
Yeah. Yep.
That's the main cover. That's Dennis Torona, my artist, who's drawn all my books so far, because he's fantastic, and I'm just waiting for him to get snatched up by Marvel or DC, because I think he's too good to keep drawing for me. But I'm going to hold on to him as long as I can.
Yeah, I would too. He's good. I like him. He does a good job.
Yeah, thanks. He did this cover also, my Psycho homage.
That's a good one too. That was another slasher we forgot to mention.
Yeah, that's a classic.
Yeah. So so those are the 5 covers. That's the artist edition of Ryan Brown's cover. So yeah, as always, I like to do I have my 5 cover spread, and I like to do my homages and stuff. So I'm very happy with how they all turned out.
It's kind of nice because it's like you have this one individualized story. It's not like, hey, this is the introductory tier, and like, it's very simple. Like, pick the cover you like.
Yep.
Jump on it, right? Like, it's not even like one cover's more expensive than the other. It's like you offer people the variety that's available.
Yep.
You put it out there for a flat rate, and there you go.
Yeah, and I've been seeing the trend has been, a pretty wide range of the 5 different covers. I mean, the Friday the 13th video game homage has definitely been a big seller, but it's pretty equally spread between them beyond that, because it's kind of like you said, it's just like, pick the one you want, pick the cover you like, and then the story's all the same on the inside, and you're getting the whole thing. So that's kind of my strategy. It seems to work pretty well for us so far.
And Mike, I gotta admit, I love the funny stuff you do with your campaigns. Like, I love awful remark. So you would do, an awful remark on the book.
I love remarks, and I can't draw. But my artist lives in the Philippines, so like, logistically speaking, I can't offer remarks. So finally, I was like, I'll just do them. And I tried to do them for Uncaped, and I really can't draw a human being. But then for this one, I was like, oh, hang on a second. Now, a masked guy, I could probably pull that off. enough, and I'm very upfront. I mean, it's literally called an awful remark, so people know what they're getting, but there's a lot of artwork collectors out there. I'm one of them, so it's kind of like, it's really growing on the comic. I will, and I've had a few people take me up on that so far. So
that's great. Maybe you, Ari, this might be an idea to steal, for the awful alphabet.
Yeah, just let me draw an alphabet thing for that.
Yeah, awful remark.
Awful. It's right there.
It's perfect for a writer,
Yeah.
That's great. This Kickstarter looks awesome, Mike. I mean, I've loved your book, so I definitely highly recommend it. This looks great. So
appreciate it.
I mean, this one looks more up my alley than any of your other books too.
What's that?
I said this one looks more up my alley than any of your other books too, like story wise and stuff.
Right. Sure. Yeah. See, that's about as graphic as it gets right there. Like that's pretty much, maybe a little bit, but that's, you can see it's not like, it's not blood and guts everywhere. It's a slasher book.
It's not like Faust.
It's not like, here's my intestines.
I love the pixels coming off of him.
Yeah,
that's a really cool effect. Yeah, that right there. Yeah.
Something I really
reminds me of Fallon's Covenant from X-Men when they were all kind of,
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I'm very excited about it. I think it's going to be. I think the finished product is going to be pretty awesome. So.
Yeah, I mean, I love these thumbnails that you shared, and
sorry.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Mike.
Our stretch goal is to do the full book in the roughs, because Dennis's roughs are so good. Even though they're rough, they're just so cool looking our first stretch goal, if we get up to $10,000, is everyone's going to get a full PDF of the whole 48-page book in that format with just like the rough artwork, and he kind of loosely places the dialogue. And I think it'll be kind of a really neat, like behind the scenes kind of version of the book, but it still kind of gives you the whole story, So that's kind of something I'm doing for the first time with this campaign.
It's a great idea, like almost like a creator commentary. Yeah, that's a cool idea.
Right, exactly.
Making of kind of thing.
Yeah, I like that stuff. So I figured, well, hopefully other people will too.
Nice. Yeah, no, I think I'm a process guy, so I love like when I get a graphic novel from somebody, whether it be on Kickstarter or just at the comic store, I love reading all the back matter and all that stuff. Like
I do too.
I love getting into the head of the creator and they talk about it. A lot of people pass that stuff over, but I eat it up. I love that stuff.
Yeah.
And Mike, I apologize if you already said it. Is the book complete? So when the campaign's done, is it going out to people right away?
It's almost. So when the campaign is done, I will be able to pay for the coloring and the lettering, and then the printing. So the artwork and the script is all done, but that's usually where I basically pay for my artist out of pocket before I run the campaign, so that the artwork is done. But I just, I have limited funds, hence the reason I do Kickstarters. So the coloring and the lettering will be done, but those usually only take a couple of weeks, and then it's off to the printers. So I have a pretty quick turnaround time for my books. I have the delivery date estimated as September, but I expect to have the books in August, because that's kind of where my busy convention season starts. So it's mostly done, like a lot more done than I think a lot of books are on Kickstarter. But
wonderful.
I need awesome, those extra few dollars to pay those guys too. They like to get paid. The colors and letters, it turns out.
Yeah. Tony said switching between Kickstarter and Indiegogo is easy. All the assets carry over. The storefront on Indiegogo is absolutely worth it. Something to think about,
Yeah, that's very cool. Thanks, Tony.
Yeah, so I love this. I think this looks great. As far as the tiers go, what's your sweet spot here, Mike?
I think my sweet spot is the all 5 covers set. I think everyone should just invest in that, what a steal. It's $70 and you get all 5 covers. But I think, I did, usually what I do is I offer one, like the main cover is like a cheaper option. Like if you just want to read the story and don't care about the covers, you get the main cover for $12. The rest of the variants are like $16, because usually I end up making them a more limited after the first run of conventions. I'll drop the covers down to like just 2 of them. So those have been the ones that have been the most popular, is really people just picking their cover and going with it. So I think really any one of those is going to treat well. But there is some, like I think also there's I think for I want to say $40 is if you haven't read any of our comics, you can get 8-Bit Slasher plus Uncaped and Red, White, and Broke So that's 3 full complete graphic novels, and I think you can get that for $40 or for something in that neighborhood. So that's kind of, I think, as well.
Yeah, that's not bad.
You know, kind of just jump in and be able to see, you know, to get everything we've done now.
What I was going to say about the covers, like that's something that DC and Marvel do now too.
Yeah.
Where the main cover, like I work in a shop again.
Yeah.
And you won't believe like the variant cover shtick that's going on. It's crazy. Like, Dynamite's the worst. But like they do like an A cover now, and it's usually like the book will be like $4.99, right? So and then every cover after that's $1 more. So it's like $5.99 for the B cover, C cover, so on and so forth. Dynamite did so many covers for one book. I forget which one that they ran out of alphabet. Like it literally went to like A2 or something, like because they went all the way through to the Z, and I was like, you gotta be shitting me.
Yeah. Like, as a collector, I'm not a big fan of the glut of variant covers that are out there. As a creator, who's an independent creator, it's a necessary evil because you got to give people something to get the price points up. So because there are people who will buy more than one, and you need those people, because if you're just selling every customer one book, you need a lot of backers to hit your goal. You know, so I see variant covers as an indie guy. I totally get it. Though I think Marvel needs to put out 17 covers for like, you know, Avengers 22, which is right. Issue of any kind. No, that's getting ridiculous, you know. But I think for us little guys, it's kind of something that we really need to help us reach our goal, because I have way less of a budget than Marvel has, you know.
Oh yeah, and
hey, this is why we didn't have a cohesive Marvel Cinematic Universe for a decade.
right.
They had to, you know, they made multiple covers. They tanked the company in the 90s, and then they had to sell off all the characters to movie studios.
That's exactly right.
But the other thing too, Johnny, is they're extremely weird and lazy sometimes. Like, I'll give you 2 examples. Like there was a Moon Knight book I shared on Twitter a couple months ago. All they did was put a moon, like literally the moon symbol on the cover with a black background, and I was like,
sold.
People were buying it though. Like I don't even get that. The other weird thing that they
elegant design, Keith.
Yeah,
there was elegance there, and in turn it made it look very elite.
But also, Johnny, like so like there was a issue of Spider-Man that came out, but it was like the cover was like a Disney thing, so it had like Mickey Mouse on it, and I was like, how would anyone know this is a Spider-Man comic? Like there was no hint it was Spider-Man at all. It was really bizarre.
Yeah, you wouldn't know they're Spider-Man, but I've collected every single one of them, sadly, because I'm a Disney fan also. So
oh, you got them?
All of them, yeah.
But you know the covers I'm talking about, Mike?
I know those we're talking about, because I spent way too much money just, you know,
it's like
what kills me was they said they were doing it for Disney's 100th anniversary, which was last year, and now they keep doing one every month this year, and I'm like, well, when's it going to end? Because now I want to stop, because I've got
right.
So that's Marvel, you know. Keep taking them
yeah. Oh God!
Speaking of Spider-Man, I was trying to remember what your cover reminded me of. You guys remember Video Man from Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends? When J. Jonah Jameson got sucked into a video game, and all of a sudden, like these, like no,
I don't remember that episode, Harry. I mean, I remember a good chunk of them. I don't remember that one.
I don't know if you can see this with my hold on.
The background.
Remember that guy?
Oh.
Video Man.
Yeah.
Let me try turning it off.
Your green screen.
Hold on.
Yeah, your green screen completely washed you out, Harry.
Let me hold on a second. Let me get rid of the background here. 1 second. Let's see here. All right. Where is it?
See, that is vaguely familiar a little bit.
Wait, no, it went away. Wait a minute. This guy here.
Video Man? That is vaguely
that's vaguely familiar.
Wow.
So basically, these guys, this was a character in a video game, and he came to life, and he got out of the game, and he's sort of like attacking, you know, the neighborhood.
Looks like Mr. Negative. Was it the guy from Doom Patrol, the flat guy?
Man.
Yeah.
So Harry, what you're saying is I totally ripped off a cartoon that's 40 years.
No, I'm just saying that you're I'm just saying what it reminds me of. But you
don't like slasher films, and you think I ripped off a Spider-Man cartoon, so I can pretty much count on you not to back my project.
No, I'm saying yours is a completely different looking thing, but it reminds the pixels.
Harry's like, where's the unsend button? I don't like this guy anymore.
Want to get away?
Right. But this is the humor of my comics. See, I write funny comics, so this is a little taste of it.
Yeah,
I don't think I've laughed this much on a stream in a long time.
Sorry, Harry.
This is great.
That's okay.
Love having you guys.
Hey, here was a great comment too from Tony. Remember this game? He's asking if you ever played Splatterhouse.
Oh, I love Splatterhouse.
You know, I remember it, but I never played it that I recall back in the day. I think there was definitely a period of time where I played video games, and there was a period of time I did not play video games. And I think that one came out more when I wasn't, but I remember it, but I've never played it, so I got to track that down somehow.
It came out on TurboGrafx 16, which wasn't a widely owned console.
Right. That's it was an arcade game though too. So
it was in the arcades though.
Yeah,
as well.
some arcades had it. I
Maybe
remember
I played the arcade a little bit then. I don't know.
Yeah, that's where I saw it. I never played it until that's the only time I played it was in the arcade. So
right.
Yeah, it was great. It was like they clearly didn't have the license to Jason because I mean that's literally what it was. You know, it was. Go ahead, Terry.
I was wondering, hey, Sarah, do you teach art or illustration or?
I teach. Well, I work at a preschool, but now I'm just teaching art to little tiny kids.
Oh, nice.
That's fun.
Well, that's a good segue. Let's look at the awful alphabet.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you see the future generation artists in your classrooms right now?
Yeah, Ari's daughter is.
There you go.
She's killing it.
Oh, that's awesome. Hey, Ari, do you probably won't have to pay for an artist pretty
eventually?
Soon.
Yeah, I'm training her up. I mean, she's going more for fine art, I think, more than comic book art at this point. But no, she's. I mean, I'm her dad, but everyone tells me
skills.
she's very good.
Oh, great! That's awesome.
No, it's you and Sarah and Brittany and everyone. They always said she was good.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing. So, is there only one thing? Is that what Backer Kit does? Is only one tier?
No, there's tiers.
Oh, there's more. Okay,
there's tiers if you go to the
pledge levels. I think Keith.
Pledge levels if you go on the site over there.
On the bar at the top.
The bar on the top if you get to pledge levels, but you can see the whole story there.
Okay, let me scroll down to the story first.
I
like the artwork a lot. First of all, like like I really think it's a lot of fun.
I love that you screen capped the actual comment. It's like history in time right there.
Found it there. And I think one of the things that I always point out about this project is that it is a very old school project where Sarah's doing watercolor and ink on paper. Our letterer was hand lettering. Mike, he's hand lettering the pages.
Wow.
Everything. So, we're in this age where we have AI art and we got everything is digital now and nothing against it. I've got people do digital art, whatever, but this one is entirely done the old fashioned way.
I love it. I mean, I think the artwork is great.
Yeah, it's tripped out. I want to eat mushrooms and read the book.
Yeah.
Sarah, is that just your style, or were you inspired by any particular children's books, or is it this is just what how I draw?
I mean, it's my style, and I was also inspired by the spirit, like the Warren comics. They had the real psychedelic. In the middle, there was always this really bright, acid-colored comic. I don't know if you guys ever saw that, but
and the way Eisner would work the logo and the title into the artwork and everything. Is that what you're referring to?
That, and also, there was a time when there were these compilations and they had these really sort of acid colors, which I love. So I was sort of going for that kind of bright, weird, surrealistic imagery. And yeah, some of it is more of that than others. Some of it is
Doctor
more.
Strange books in the 70s were like
yes,
that.
yes,
That,
and the Silver Surfer and like all the weird
Mobius and stuff. Yeah,
I love that.
And a little bit reminds me of Little Nemo a little bit too, like the way like it would all be a bunch of stuff going on, and you know what I mean, like especially something like this, you know, where it's like the kid going across the page. Reminds me a little bit of like that Little Nemo kind of stuff.
Oh, thank you.
Or like Where the Wild Things Are.
Yeah, a little bit of that influence.
Maurice Sendak is my hero in children's books. I love his work.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
He's a big influence on the writing as well. Maurice Sendak, he had all those rhyming books like Pierre and Chicken Soup and Rice.
He's amazing. Yeah,
love this picture of you, Ari. You look like a gangsta.
This is what happens when you're a poor starving writer. Is that this picture is actually from a wedding, my wife's roommate's wedding that was an outdoor wedding in Rome, and I actually cropped it. It was an outdoor wedding in Rome, and it's like in the middle of the summer, and it's 100 degrees outside, and so I have my linen suit and my Panama hat. That's thing, and I was like, that's the best picture of me anyone's taken in a while. So I cropped it out into the size of an author photo, and that's been the photo I've been using with everything ever since. And then, then the pandemic came along and everything's been online, and I'm in a house with 2 little kids, and I have to wear the headphones and the mic, or else you wouldn't be able to hear me. And now I don't wear the hat like I used to be. Like they tell you in marketing, like, oh, once you have the hat, you got to wear the hat and everything. Every time I did a reading convention, anything, I had to have the hat. So I had 2 hats. I had a summer hat, which was the Panama, and then I have a felt one that was the winter one. And they all had to be different colors because of my cultural background. I can't wear a black fedora because people make assumptions about, so I have to, so my winter fedora is blue. But then since then you can't wear it with the headphones. It just doesn't work. So I'm going to have to get a different picture done eventually. We'll see.
That's Ari's cover story. It's actually when he spent time as a Colombian drug lord.
Yeah, right.
Look, Johnny, there are things that we're not supposed to talk about because
he's like, see that pinky ring,
That's not my cocaine, man.
Yeah. And I like this picture, Sarah painting.
What are you listening to there, Sarah?
Rage.
Rage Against the Machine.
Metallica.
Remember?
Yeah. It might have been Public Enemy, actually.
Oh, cool.
Are you serious?
That's a good
I love Public Enemy.
Yeah.
Fight the power.
That's great.
And Keith, you were saying about the pledge levels. If you go to the top bar, the story right next to story is pledge levels. If you scroll down, so you see it says pledge levels
okay,
right there, so you can get
cool. Okay. Oh, that's cool. They have it on its like separate kind of.
Yeah, and if you click the back end, it'll take you there anyway.
Gotcha. That's cool.
So we have a number.
Which one would you say is the sweet spot here, you guys?
We have all different ones. We have ranging from the digital. The digital one is popular. The hardcover actually has been one of the more popular ones. We have a number. We can have, I like the hardcover one because I feel like that presents the book in the way that it's meant to be presented.
Well, when you see a storybook, you think of hardcover.
Like it's a big, it's a large format book. It's horizontal aspect, 11 by 8.5, kind of horizontal book. If you think about like the format that the 300 came out in, it's about that size.
I have that book on my shelf.
You want to have that in a hardcover if you can swing it. A number of different art prints as well. I have an art print from Marika, who was the illustrator of my other book. You get the other illustrated book that I did. Sarah's doing original art. There's still a couple of those up. Those are limited. So
okay.
Those that you can get in a color. I have one where I will write a sonnet for you. I think there's one of those left as well. We have consultations, like you could get a writing consultation with me or with Dennis Knight, if you know him from.
Oh wow!
He's been on the show with us.
Yeah. So
love Dennis here.
Yeah, so he's offering a consultation as well. So we have all sorts of different, add-ons. But I would say, the hardcover has generally been the most popular one. Yeah, and then they let you do the updates. You can make a discussion. People can put in their discussion, and it actually does give you a storefront afterwards.
That's cool. Like that's a cool idea. Like that's what I thought this was originally.
Yeah, they do give you a storefront. A lot of people actually use their Kickstarter after they're done with the Kickstarter. They put if they're using BackerKit for fulfillment, they'll do pre-orders before they put it on Amazon or wherever. So you have that also. But again, so far it's actually interesting. Is the most common pledge levels are either the ebook or the hardcover.
Oh, cool.
So we have a few paperbacks in there, but mostly, like they'd say, the hardcover is the most popular, and after that is the ebook. So, we'll try.
How could you not want the hardcover? Sorry, Ari, I didn't mean to step on you, but like the hardcover, it looks so beautiful on the shelf.
Yeah, no, it's a kind of book you could put it on your coffee table. It'd be a good discussion piece, that kind of thing.
Conversation piece, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Got a good question here too from Tony. What's your favorite letter in the awful alphabet? It's a great question.
I can answer that. It's definitely E for entropy.
Nice.
That's the one that started it all.
Yeah, right?
That's
E is for entropy. Things fall apart as existential ennui envelops your heart.
Very deep.
Yeah. Does everyone have a favorite letter? I never even thought about it, to be honest with you.
I really like the O one also, which is the illustration that you showed with through the rings over there.
Yeah, that's my favorite illustration I've seen.
Yeah, I love the E illustration. I like the S a lot with the snake that I put up there. I put the first few up because to get a continuity of the story, and then I put a couple of my favorites after that.
Does it cost a lot to get a hardcover made like that?
It depends on, like anything else, how many you're making and how many you're printing. I mean, for my other book, it does. I mean, it costs a good amount to get a hardcover made, but you generally do a better margin on the hardcover when you sell it. Because people are willing to pay for more money for a hardcover. So it costs more up front, but the more you sell of them, the better. And it depends. Like when I was down at PoFest, usually I sell more paperbacks. My other book is similar. I have another book that's similar. I mean, it's not similar in terms of the style of the art, but it's similar in terms that's an illustrated book. And, kind of using that as a guideline. The paperbacks usually do better, and, that's fine. But there are certain shows, like at the PoFest, everybody wanted the hardcover. I sold out of the hardcover. It depends on the audience and the specific show.
Gotcha.
What they're there for, what people can do. I think a lot of people like the hardcover, but if they don't know you, they might be going for the paperback first because of the, because of the price point. But, it's the kind of thing that you really want to put in their hands. So they could feel, like when you're at a table or whatever you're selling, you want to actually give them the hardcover, so that they can feel it through. You also end up selling a lot of paperbacks because you have a hardcover where you say, I'm selling the hardcover for $40. You can get the paperback for only $25. And that, like these types of things. But like I said, it depends on the show. It depends on the. Depends on the audience. It depends, that kind of thing.
Go ahead.
Ari's worked the trenches of Buddy Scalera's booth at New York Comic Con, so he's got all the tricks of the trade. He knows how to hustle behind the table. He knows what to do to push those books.
Buddy is great at that. Buddy has some listen to Buddy when he tells you about selling and when he tells you about networking. Buddy is really, really good at that.
Well, I gotta admit, Mike's got some great selling techniques too. He got me to his table in a terrific con with his technique.
Thank you. I've honed them over many conventions. I'll put myself up against most people as far as the actual selling goes. I think I'm pretty good at it.
Yeah, tell people what you do. It's just kind of fun.
You don't know my signs?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so I made these signs for the table, and like one of them says like, "I won't pressure you. Come take a look." Because when you're an indie creator, people are like, "Oh, can't get within 10 feet, can't make eye contact. You're gonna try and sell me something." So I had the sign says, "Don't pressure me," or "I won't pressure you. Come take a look." And nobody was seeing it on the table. So at Terrificon, I was having a tough time at first. So I started holding the sign up at people, like attacking them with my sign almost, and that got people to come over to my table. And I started selling a lot of books. And so but then what would happen is people would look at my sign and they would be like, "Oh, that's really funny. That's a funny sign." And then they'd walk away. So I made a second sign now, and it says, "If you think my sign is funny, you should read my comics." So I hit them with the first sign, and if they don't come over and they're like, "That's funny," I'm like, "Well, bam," with the second sign, and that usually gets them to come over to the table.
Great idea.
Yeah, I can convert a pretty good amount of them. So I've got a little bit of infamy at some of the cons I go to, where people now know me and my signs.
That's how I met you, Mike. Yeah, so like it works,
The sign is a small placard, if I remember correctly, right? Yeah. Something you have on the table. Yeah. You should upgrade and go like full Wile E. Coyote and have a picket sign.
Right.
You know what I mean?
They're like 8.5 by 11. I've got them on a stick, so I can kind of wave them around a bit. You know what I mean?
That's cool, Johnny.
I have thought about doing just like a banner. It just says like, "I will not pressure you. Come, just look at my comics."
I have seen some funny banners like that, like where someone will put something weird like that,
Yeah, it's tough to get people to your table. Once you can get them there, I can sell them usually, but getting them to the table is the hardest part.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone.
I think my next banner I have printed is gonna have a face in the hole cut out for people to come and snap a photo.
There you go. Yeah.
Then that way, that no matter what, they have to come to the booth at that point, right? If they want a photo in the face in the hole, they're gonna need to, come to the table and check.
Yeah, I thought about that too, Johnny. Like if you just made a banner of one of your characters with the hole cut out, so you can take a picture, like you're at the Big E or something. I think that's
careful where you cut the hole out.
Right. Yeah.
Get in trouble is all I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. Harry, you look like you had something to say.
Oh no, I'm just like thinking about things.
Oh, okay.
weird things going on in my head. Sorry.
Awesome.
Well, one other thing
that 40 minutes, so I'm thinking of like starting to wrap it up here. No, it's okay. So I'm gonna share both links to the projects here in the chat so everyone can check it out.
Appreciate that.
If you're watching this tomorrow, the links are in the description of the video on YouTube, and you can back from there. Anything else you guys want to promote while you're here on the show, besides the Kickstarters, like your social medias, your anything
I'll
like
give
that?
You one.
Yeah,
actually, sure. I have a story coming out in Ahoy Comics Project Cryptid on March 20th. That's half the book. Joe Illidge has the other story. It's Joe Illidge and Jamal Eigel. My story is illustrated by Richard Pace. Cool. And it's part of Ahoy Cryptid. You don't have to have been reading it. It's an anthology series. Each issue stands alone. It's in previews now. You're going to, March 20th is the newsstand date when it comes out, available wherever you buy your comics. And it's a cool series about cryptids. Ahoy does funny books, so they're going to be an element of humor in anything they publish. So that's something else that I have coming up soon.
Awesome.
I remember when you got linked up with Ahoy, Ari. How's things been going with them as just working with them?
No, they're a great company to work with. They're a great company to work with. So they have this thing. I actually saw them on Buddy's show. Two of their guys being interviewed, and they have this program for writers. Actually, you submit them a prose story. They publish, like the old comics, they publish little prose stories in the back of their comic books. And, they published two of my, prose stories. One of them was, the Genesis story, but God is drunk the whole time. And then the other one was a bunch of, it was a crime story, but it was really a bunch of cheese puns, standing on top of each other in a trench coat and a fedora. And then, the editor who had purchased my stories, she contacted me a couple of years ago when she was starting this project, and she said, "Hey, you want to pitch me a comic, 8 to 10 pages for this, for this Project Cryptids thing I'm doing, do you have any cryptid ideas? And, of course I said yes. And, they've been great. And they find the artist for you. Unless they'll ask you, do you have anyone you want to work with or whatever, but they work with you. Like your contract is separate than the artist, a professional type of company. They have distribution wherever DC is distributed. They're on the same network, and they have a lot of big names writing for them. Like the last short story I had published was in the back of a Mark Russell book. Nice. And then this one, is with Joe and and Jamal Igle, been everywhere, and Richard Pace is, all these people, so you're in there, in a more, it's still an indie, it's a larger, it's still an indie comic, but you're in there with more mainstream people as well, and it's a nice thing. Huge. They've been great to work with. They've been very, like, when I've talked to their Stuart Moore's involved with them, a lot of people. My editor Sarah Litt, who I met for the first time because she lives in Lisbon, and she was in New York Comic Con this year, so I actually met her in person. And they've all been great. I've done 2 prose stories and this short comic for them, and they treat you well. They talk to you. They'll
I love that. I love hearing good things about indie publishers like that.
Great company to work with, and it gives you a reason. Like I went to Mark Russell's booth at New York Comic Con. I was like, hey, I was in the back of your book. It signed my book, and then I ended up talking with him about writing comics for a good 10 minutes. Just at his booth. It gives you an in to talk to people also.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Awesome. How about you, Sarah? Anything you want to promote outside of the Kickstarter or the backer kit?
Well, I actually have some old little accordion books that I wrote called Piss Cat. It's a series which Ari actually bought when Maggie was my student. And I do have them available at my website, which is sarahmccallefron@mac.com. You can, if you go to the Piss Cat section.
Jesus.
There's children's book art, and there's a bunch of different pages, and anyway, they're little accordion books that I had printed up just on my own, and they're full color, and you could check it out if you want to.
Speaking of Piss Cat, a long time ago I did my internship when I was like first trying to get into graphic design, whatever, and they put me to do the internship at Tufts University School of Veterinary Medicine, the large animal hospital. It's like, I forget what it is, like Grafton, Mass. It's around here anyway. So and I was like working on my computer, and all you could smell was like formaldehyde, because like they would bring all kinds of like animals in with like issues, like Clydesdales with like eating disorders, or camels, with like whatever, one hump, whatever. They're like a bison with cancer.
That's right.
But anyway, I was working on my computer, and this nurse walked in, and this nurse was the sister of a MTV VJ, whatever. I forget the guy's name, but anyway, it doesn't matter. She had her cat. She was holding this cat, and she's like, "Hey Harry, like my cat?" I'm like, "Oh yeah." I was like kind of half paying attention. I'm like, "Yeah, sure, yeah." And it's like, "No, look at it." And she like turns around, and this cat had 2 faces. It was supposed to split into. It was supposed to split into 2 different cats, but it didn't make it that far. It had 2 working mouths, 3 eyes. With the eye in the middle was like in mid split. You know what I mean? It was like,
oh my god!
And it was so scary looking, And I think it's the oldest living, or was. I don't know if it's still with us or if they're still with us, but it's the oldest living Janus cat, which means like
wow.
It's in the Guinness Book of World Records if you look it up, and it had 2 different names. I forget.
Sorry, I laughed so hard this stream. I'm dehydrated.
Sorry.
Harry, you kill me, dude. I love it.
Maybe next show I'll find a picture of this cat. It's like scary looking. Speaking of horror movies,
sounds terrifying.
my pants looking at this cat.
Nightmare fuel.
Yeah.
Maybe that could be like a stretch goal on Mike's campaign. A picture of the cat.
A picture of the cat.
Picture of the
Janus cat.
That's your next Tara comic.
Oh,
yeah, there you go.
It was scary.
The piss cat. I like that. No, that's.
Hold on. I mean, why you guys talk among yourselves? I'll try and find a picture online because it's scary.
I was just gonna say, for every Jack Frost, the family-friendly Michael Keaton movie, there's Jack Frost, the B horror movie.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
What about the Killer Snowman?
Oh my God, so funny.
Oh,
Mike, how
God.
about you? Do you have anything else that you want to
I'm working on a new book called The Anorexic Clydesdale. I'm really excited about that.
It was so scary. It was like a 10-foot tall horse, like with like all skin and bones. It was scary.
It's a horror.
Campbell won't stop smoking.
All right, hold on. I think I found it. Let me.
Oh God, I don't know if I can see this. I want to be able to go to bed tonight.
It's hold on.
I already watched somebody get hit by a car today.
Did you really?
I did. God. It's a long story.
Oh, let me see this.
Oh my God.
Here.
I'm out.
I'm out. All right, hang on.
There they are.
Oh, what?
That's a mutant cat.
Oh,
that's like the hills have eyes by way of the internet.
Yeah, seriously,
Oh my Jesus! Here's a close up. Hold on, this is a better picture. Clear.
Please.
This is probably where I.
Full 4K Ultra HD detail. Please.
Can you
It
see
looks like
that?
Popeye.
Wow.
Oh,
And
wow.
I think this mouth was a more dominant mouth. That was the eating mouth. The other one was like this era for show, I guess. But it's pretty scary.
Turned into like
That's crazy.
Wild
Sorry,
Kingdom.
yeah.
What we call the dominant mouth.
Yeah, the dominant. Yes. I know. What's the guy's name? Attleboro. Wait, what's the guy's name? The David Attenborough.
Yeah.
I know David Attenborough, but
like a naked lunch or something.
Right.
Oh God.
Pretty scary though.
Johnny, I don't know. Do you have anything you want to shout out this week besides
I just
Animal
want to
Oddities?
say Carissa Grant strikes again and launched another campaign today.
Get out of here, really?
Who?
This girl is just unstoppable. She just
we
keeps
had-
launching campaigns and keeps hitting.
What's her
It's like she's an anomaly. She's a
We had her on the
force to be
show
reckoned
like
with.
about a month ago, and this girl literally does 8 to 10 campaigns a year. It's insane.
And it exceeds on each one of them.
What's her name?
Her name's
Carissa
Carissa
Grant.
Grant. Worthy Chaos is the name of the book.
It's the name of her company. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I can't. It's unbelievable. Like I can't even. It's hard enough to do one. I can't imagine doing 10, which is crazy.
She writes the story in perspective of the character. So she goes back and forth with another writer, and they just write their characters' parts back and forth, and then they put it into the comic book format. It's a very
really
interesting way of going about doing
Yeah,
things.
it's very
And
odd, but
she's
worked
obviously
for her.
clearly found a very successful
Like
formula that she's working with. And I just want, so I told her I'd shout her out. She hit me up today. She's like, I'm like, wow, I'm just so impressed by the way she launches campaigns.
Yeah.
And I told her I'd shout her out in the show tonight. So there you have it.
Is she a
Chris
twin
Grant-
or a triplet?
What's that?
Or
Is she a twin or a triplet?
She has one
Maybe there's more-
face. She doesn't have two faces.
No, I'm saying there could
This
be
isn't
more
a
than
malignant scenario.
there could be more than one of her. You know, I mean,
The basket case.
Basket
Remember that movie?
Yes. And the other thing I just wanted to say is thank you, Mike. Thank you, Ari. And thank you, Sarah, for taking time out of your day, coming on the show, sharing your projects and your talents with us. It's always great hanging out with you guys.
Yeah.
Great meeting you, Sarah, as well. And, everybody, if you have an opportunity, get on to Kickstarter, back 8-bit slasher, get on to Backer Kit, and back Awful Alphabet for Ari. And, and check out everybody's work here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Harry, anything else you want to shout out this week? Or?
Well, I finally picked up that hardcover book that I worked on for 2 months. That it's a very involved the comic book that I helped color. And I did other things too, but I don't get credit for the coloring part of it. But I'm not gonna complain. Yeah, but
can you flash it real quick? I mean, this would be a completely in-depth thing on its own.
Hold on. Let me take off let me get off this thing again. 1 second. So here's the cover of it.
Oh, okay.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It's a pretty thick book. It's
show it the side of it, like so I can see how thick it is. Oh yeah, look at that.
Pretty, and that's why it cost as much as it did, because I was kind of surprised at but he wanted me. I mean, I wanted 2 copies of it, and he was like saying $30 for both. I'm like, oh, it's pretty. But let me get to the. So the comic is it's basically like and kind of like an anthology type of. It's like mini stories about this area in New Hampshire.
Okay.
And it's like like just crimes that happen in this area and other historical factoids. But here's the comic. Oops.
Oh yeah, look at that. It came out pretty good.
Yeah.
That's your artwork, huh?
Well, it was drawn by Bruce. We worked with Bruce, me and Keith and I. Yeah. And but they're in rough shape. He did like a pencil artwork, and I just cleaned up all the images, and I had to redraw some of the characters, and I did all the coloring. So it was a lot of work. I'm sure there's an easier way to do it. But
yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, but as you do more, it gets easier, I think. You know.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But it was fun.
Awesome. Well, I mean, I gotta agree with Johnny. Thank you guys all for coming on the show as always.
Yeah.
Sarah, is Rosie right there to say goodbye to us as well?
Can she talk? Can she say goodbye?
There she is.
Did she get scared from the cat or by the cat?
Looks like she's knocked out. Hi, Rosie. Hi, Rosie.
Oh, hey.
I love when they do that look like, Rosie. Hi, Rosie. The ear goes up. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So I'm going to wrap this one up. Anyone have any last words before we close out this stream?
Just thanks for having us on. Always pleasure to
having us. Yeah.
Nice meeting you.
May your cats have single faces.
That's
yes.
right.
Make sure. Yes.
Awesome. All right, everybody. We'll be back. Actually, next week, we're going to be doing a big writers workshop thing with 3 of our favorite writers. And we're just going to talk indie comic writing. And then we'll be back. I think we're going to be going 2 weeks in a row. So, and then after that, we'll be on our regular schedule again. But yeah, have a great week. And always, most importantly, read comics. All right. We'll talk to you guys later, and we'll see you next week. Good night, everyone.
Yeah.